Hi, and thanks for joining us for this special edition Garner Station podcast, which is also a segment for our November 5th, 2020 Garner Chamber Connect Conference. I'm your host today, Matthew Coppedge, president at the Garner Chamber of Commerce, and I have with me Joe Stallings, the town's economic development director. Joe, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we are talking all things Amazon today. So as you know, Amazon has opened up here in Garner, and it has been a long time coming. We are really excited about it. And what I wanted to really do is showcase the hard work of the town and what kind of goes into a project like this to actually make it come to fruition. So with that, I'll turn it to Joe. So Joe, you were obviously a big part of making this whole thing happen. So can you take me back to when this first started? What was the first contact you had about Amazon?
Yeah, so projects like this, it's not an overnight type thing. So this all started, back in the fall, winter of 2017, say around November. And that was whenever the first contact was made. But I think really to even begin about talking about the site and the project, you have to even go back further than that whenever you think about how the GDC was formed, what happened with the ConAgra facility, their closure, and then donating the property to the GEDC for redevelopment. All that got us to the point where in 2017 we could even begin to have a conversation with Amazon. But after the almost decade of work that was done to get the site to a point to where we could get a new client on the property, we were contacted through a developer and a broker that we had had a good relationship with, and started the conversation about what ifs. And before I knew it, we had people flying from Seattle here to meet with us and talk about turning those what ifs into actual reality.
So was that a what if for just developing that site, or a what if specifically with Amazon?
That's right. So at the time, there were specific parameters that the GDC had set out. And one of those parameters was really focusing on life sciences and high-tech manufacturing. And so whenever Amazon came, it wasn't necessarily what we had set out for, but the project was so good and the numbers were so large, it just made sense. And so we had that initial conversation, and for years, we were marketing this site. And what we learned is it's really hard to get a company who is making a product that you consume in your body to go on a brownfield site. So we needed to find the perfect client, the perfect project that understood the importance of brownfields, what they could bring to that particular project, and then get them excited about the property.
Right. So when you found out it was Amazon, how long did it take from the initial discussions to actually sign the deal, and how much back and forth was there, tours and negotiations and those kind of things?
Sure. So, it actually moved, for a project of this size, it moved really quickly, right? I think there was a lot of interest on both sides of the table to make sure that things went smoothly and that things moved at the speed of business, which Amazon is a big company, and they move quick. They know what they want, and they know how to get it. And so there wasn't a whole lot of drawn out processes. I would think, from the time that we first had our conversation till we were signing letters of intent, it was probably 4 months.
That's one of the fastest that I've ever heard of, right?
Certainly, especially for something that size.
Yeah, so congrats. So why were they so interested in this area?
Well, I think the triangle itself is growing at such a rapid rate, and not just unique to Amazon, but anybody that's in the retail e-commerce side of the fence is looking to try to get into major metros, is specifically in locations where they have short distances to large population centers. And so once again, because of Garner's unique location and we're 8 minutes from downtown, and we're really 20 to 30 minutes from anywhere in the triangle, it made a lot of sense for them to be where they're at. That, and if you look at the property itself, you're a quarter of a mile from I-40, not that much further from 70, not that much further from 95, 85, certainly 540 and currently 440. So the transportation and logistics of the property really aligned well with what they were trying to do. And I think that gave us a little bit of a leg up when it came to actually locating them on on the site.
Were we competing with other towns? I mean, it seems like it was a pretty
Yeah.
fast and a pretty quick process. So, I mean, what was the competition like?
Sure. So I know.
Or do you know? Do you know other towns?
I know a few. You know, these buildings and these projects are a little bit unique in that companies like Amazon have to be in these places. They don't have to be in Garner, but they do have to be somewhere in the triangle to meet their customers' expectations. I think, well, I know that we were competing with places in Wisconsin and in Texas and other areas to be on the schedule that we were. So, you know, at the same time that they were building in Garner, they were also announcing in Charlotte and later in Kernersville. So there was a real big push by Amazon to get into these major markets. But so it wasn't necessarily, was it a question they were coming to the triangle? It's where were they coming in the triangle? And then it was a question of at what time were they coming? Were they going to be able to find a property owner to work with them quickly, or were they going to have to stretch out their expectations?
Right. Now, are all the new sites you're talking about, like Charlotte and those places, are they the same scale and scope of what this distribution center is?
So Charlotte is probably more similar than Kernersville. I think Kernersville is 1 million square feet, where we're 2.5, give or take, million square feet. And so, in working with Amazon, you learn that, just like any business, they're constantly changing their formats and their buildings. And, they've got distribution centers in New York City, right, that are completely different from what you've seen here. So there are different formats of Amazon buildings that they have developed. I know you're from Durham, or most recently from Durham. They've got a different floor plate format in Durham than they have here in Garner. So, I think you'll continue to see the Amazon fulfillment center, robotic sorting facilities, things like that. You'll continue to see them change.
Yeah, and I want to get into that a little bit because I know you have some knowledge
Sure.
about how that works. Because I think it's really interesting. But did you get a call that said, "Yep, we're coming, deal's done, it's signed off," or was it more of a drawn out kind of signing with the council and those kind of things?
It wasn't a quick process. We had a great partner, Jackson Reeves of Foundry Commercial, who was instrumental in getting everything done. Had a great partner in him that really kind of helped shepherd things along on the commercial real estate side. And so there was a ton of due diligence that went into it, a lot of waiting. You had everything from the Corps of Engineers. Let me say this, you had every level of government on that property. And so everything from the federal government, the state, the locals, the county, the city, all of us were out there working on this project at the same time, trying to get things to go. And so luckily, everybody was pulling in the same direction. But midway through, Amazon went from, say, a 400,000 square foot floor plate to a 640,000 square foot floor plate. So the project grew, and because of that, the timelines had to change a little bit. They were kind of extended out, but still, it was amazing to see the level of participation and support that we got from everybody, from the state to the Corps of Engineers and everybody in between. It was absolutely amazing.
So you never got like a call like winning the lottery. It wasn't
No.
like, "Hey, yep, they're coming." No, it wasn't that.
No,
Maybe I can pretend that's what happened.
Yeah.
You guys partied at City Hall, Town Hall.
In economic development or even in commercial real estate, right? The deal's never done until it's done.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until we announced this thing in August of 2018. Well, by that time, we had almost worked on this thing for almost a year, right? Yeah. So it wasn't until August 2018 that certainly myself and I'm sure everybody else on the team breathed a sigh of relief, saying, "All right, they're finally coming here." And even then, you never know.
Still has to get built.
That's
Still
exactly
has to
right.
open. Yeah.
Absolutely, markets change, customer spending habits change, pandemics occur. Anything could happen, right? And so you can never, counting your chickens, right? You can't count them until they hatch. And luckily for us, things went, even with changes in the development, even changes with, just building and weather and things like that, we were still able to keep on track and get this building open.
So what about now? Now it's open. Are you happy now?
Oh, of course, yeah.
You can be the big sigh of relief now that it's
exactly
open and
right.
they're open for holiday deliveries and all those.
Absolutely. Listen, we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? And the pandemic has hurt people in different ways. But it is nice to know that even during the pandemic, we have an employer opening up and offering over 3,000 jobs to the men and women who have quite possibly lost theirs.
Right.
And so I think, obviously from the town side of things, it's tax base and it's jobs. And after the Amazon announcement, we got calls and interest from folks that we had never even heard.
Right. Well, it puts you on the map,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Having a big name, really puts Garner on the map for those kind of things.
Absolutely. And we got, working with our PIO, we got press coverage from England and California and all over the world. And so that's really exciting. It put us on the map, and we started getting calls from developers that would never have given us the time a day before. But really, it's it's knowing that now that the project's here and they're hiring, that there are people that were hurting, that were out of work, and they've been able to find gainful employment there. Yeah. And I don't know how long they may stay there, or maybe they go back to what they were doing before, but the idea that they're able to come to work, make money, support their families, get benefits, and really makes it all worth it.
Yeah, well, it's a huge win for the community.
Absolutely.
I think, to have them here. So originally it was slated, I think, to have 1,500 jobs.
That's
right. That was the public announcement, and now it's over 3,000.
Over 3,000.
So how did that change? I mean, that's an amazing change.
That is, that's a huge surprise, wasn't it? That's a huge win, and we had nothing to do with that, right? I mean, that's completely.
You had everything to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, really, this doesn't those 3,000 jobs aren't here unless all the things kind of happened.
Sure,
so.
But Amazon. That was an Amazon call, and I'm sure that's like everything else in business is driven by customer demand and the needs and.
Well, again, that business has accelerated as well with the pandemic, deliveries and those kind of things.
Absolutely.
So it's been driven by a lot of those things. And the second largest employer in Garner, how many do they employ?
Oh, I think somewhere around 300.
Yeah, I mean, so this is 10 times that employment level. I mean,
Well,
it's just an amazing
If
addition.
you think, whenever the GDC started out, they wanted to replace 440 jobs and $55 million worth of tax base. And so now we have, somewhere around $250 million in tax base and over 3,000 jobs. I think that organization, the Garner Economic Development Corporation, knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
I mean, they clearly met their goals plus a lot
Right.
more. And so now that we have the newest, largest employer, the largest taxpayer, largest single tax base in town, now the question is where you go from here, right?
Yeah, what's next, right? We're going to top that. So we'll work on that. So let's talk about the facility and the robotics that you mentioned earlier. If you can kind of dig in a little bit on what this facility can do and how advanced it is.
Well, it's incredible, right? The idea that let me start with saying this. Whenever we were working on this project, we got to go out to St. Louis and actually tour, or Kansas City rather, and tour an Amazon sorting facility and really see what it was like. Now, granted, I have not been in the Garner ones
Me neither.
since they
Keep trying to get
opened.
in there.
It's pretty pretty much like Fort Knox over there. But it's they've got tens of thousands of these robots that are picking up pallets, small vertical pallets, and taking them to their stations where a human being will interact and take the product off of it, and folks can watch that stuff online all day long. But what is really interesting about the whole process is, one, the number of people they employ and how they interact with the robots to get the packages out. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they've already shipped out millions of packages from the Garner facility, and they've been open since August 3, so not very long at all. And that number is obviously just going to continue to grow.
Sure. And they can ship almost 1 million packages a day, I think is what
Yeah.
Chris was telling me. Chris is the plant manager.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
For sure. And also I heard that it decides where the best shipping thing is when it rolls through this machine, like for each package, depending on where it's going and where it's sorted. It's really interesting.
It's all based on algorithms and technology and computer assisted programming. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, for sure. So now it's open. The road is done.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's lots of construction and in and around there in terms of road construction on 40 and then 540 and those kind of things as we move forward. So what does this mean moving forward for Garner, right? You've said we've gotten press all around the world from this facility. We've gotten, obviously there's growth happening here. Kind of where do we go from here, and what does this provide for Garner residents, but also the community as a whole?
Well, I think one of kind of getting back to the transportation piece of this project is, Amazon came in and didn't have to, but chose to build out the entire cross section of Jones Sausage Road down to the southern end of their property, which has been a huge improvement. and something that would not have happened otherwise had it not been for this project. And I think with the excellent leadership at our town council, they've gone ahead and we're doubling down, and we're going to see Jones Sausage Road. The design work's being done now to widen it out all the way to East Garner Road, where we have another project in the mix down there. So on the transportation side, what the project has meant was that we've been able to leverage private investment for public infrastructure improvements. And that's something that is going to really help everybody that travels Jones Sausage Road. Now, they're going to have to bear with us a little bit like they've had to for the past couple of months, in that, road improvements are sometimes, not the easiest thing to drive around. But once it's done, then it's going to be something that is really going to help the traveling public. But I think really for us, in a more general sense, it'll help get us, like I said, on the map. We're seeing new developers coming into the community that probably wouldn't have shown as much interest had it not been for that project. There's going to be more development in that area, both on the industrial side and probably on in other sectors. But really, it's for us raising that awareness of the Garner product.
Right. And I think both from your end, the town, from the chambers, and now that there is this, hey, where is Garner? Like, what is Garner? They're on the map since Amazon is here and people are looking. We have to do a really great job of making sure we reach out and we connect with those developers and residents and whoever, because we're going to see a lot of growth as we move forward. And we talked about this a lot. Going back about the transportation, the construction and the improvements and those kind of things. I mean, this is going to be a continual thing, and people just need to be aware of that just in Garner with the growth that we're going to see. It starts with this Amazon, and it's that's kind of builds on top of what everybody else has built over the last 50 years here in Garner, or however long. And as we move forward, kind of what are your thoughts on just preparing people for those kind of improvements, the traffic that we're going to continue to see increasing,
Sure.
as we move forward?
Yeah. Well, listen, I tell people all the time that if it were the opposite way, we would be in a lot worse position.
For sure.
Right. If you didn't have traffic, if you didn't have growth, if you didn't have these things. And so, listen, it isn't easy. I live here. I have my family here. I know what it's like to be stuck on 70 and in these other areas. But I think what's important is that we realize that there's outside forces that are not just within the municipality, but even just around us, where we're going to see a lot of continued growth. We're a victim of our own success, right? We've been really good in the Triangle at recruiting new companies and bringing new families here to live, and this putting new cars and trucks on the road. That being said, I mean, you look at the pandemic, right? We've seen 15% reduction in traffic, I think the DOT said at the last meeting. I think there might be some changes, some long-term fundamental changes in how people get around. Depending if people return fully back to work or if they're still working from home long term. But I think ideally, we're going to have to get through this together. I know that the leadership here locally and at the state understands the importance of continued investment in things like public transportation and in the current road infrastructure that you see. But it's not going to happen overnight. And so we're going to continue to do our best and to meet people's needs, and it's going to take both the private development community and the local government, and the state government for that matter, really working together to make sure folks are able to get around.
Yeah, I mean, I think continuing the conversations, continuing the collaborations, making sure we're looking 5, 10, 15, 20 years out to make sure we're trying to prepare as much as we can. I think
Absolutely.
You guys are doing a great job. We'll continue to do that. So you talked a little bit about, how projects and moving forward, you mentioned the pandemic, obviously. I know from our end, we're still seeing interest and growth. What are you seeing from your end, broader than Amazon?
Things really haven't slowed down. I mean, we're still seeing industrial development. We're still seeing interest from large clients looking to locate companies, especially in the life sciences and biopharmaceuticals. And that shouldn't be of any surprise whenever you see what's going on here in the area. And I think, I don't think there may have been a small blip, but not much of a blip on the residential side, right? So we're still we're still seeing subdivisions and apartments and things like that coming into the community.
Yeah, and we were just talking before we started recording about houses still, get 20 offers on them. It's hard to find something that's affordable, right?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's I think we've weathered this as well as any community in the country and a region in the country has weathered it. So, I'm very optimistic about where we're going and what we have here in Garner. So
affordable housing is going to continue to be an issue for every community in the Triangle, and Garner's not going to be unique in that. The fortunate thing for Garner is that we are naturally, compared to our other municipal partners, more affordable. And so that is good news. However, that is moving the other way. And what we're working on now specifically is trying to leverage opportunity zones for affordable housing. And so we've got one particular project that's going on, and hopefully we'll see that come to fruition. But it's really going to take, once again, the private development community and the government working together to help try to at least slow this thing down a little bit, or at least produce the number of affordable housing units that we're going to need. I frankly don't know if we'll ever get to the point where we have affordable housing for everybody that needs it. I mean, but with
the challenge that everybody deals with, and it's
absolutely.
not, there are no easy answers.
No, there's no easy answer, and we're going to continue to see people move here, right? And we're going to continue to see prices rise. I mean, just the cost of construction has gotten so much that, it's hard to bring to market an affordable unit. That being said, you saw we made mention of it last week, saw the city of Raleigh has on their ballot $80 million for affordable housing.
Right.
I think that you'll still see an interest from local governments and from hopefully the nonprofit sector in producing those affordable housing units in our communities.
Awesome. Well, with that, I think we're about out of time. Joe, I appreciate you sitting down and chatting with us
My
about
pleasure.
this. Congratulations again on Amazon. It's just a big win for not only Garner and the community, but also the Triangle and North Carolina as a whole. So I look forward to working with you very much in the future. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you next time.